Hello everybody, I know I'm a little early. I hope to see some of you come in around 1 o'clock or so. Hi Mishi, how you doing today? It's great to see you here. Did you see my community post the other day where I posted that you were my second subscriber ever on my channel? And actually, you're the first subscriber of anybody that I knew on the channel, so I guess I could call you my first subscriber. Hey everybody, if you could say hello as you come in the door, I'd appreciate it. I'd love to know who's here with me. Well, like I said, you're the first person that was anybody that I actually knew. So, hi Jen, how are you doing today? How are you feeling? I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear you're doing well. I hope you guys all have something to drink and you're in a comfy chair, ready to do some crocheting. So I am going to go ahead and, well, I guess I'll wait for a few more moments and see if anybody else is able to come in. I was so excited to get up to have enough subscribers to be able to do a live stream. I've been having lots of technology issues trying to upload recorded stuff. My camera, for some reason, only wants to record about 20 minutes at a time, which means I have to splice a bunch of files together, and I'm not real happy with the editing software I've got. I've got to find something that's better. And then my phone, I have just about maxed out my memory on my phone, so it's like, plus the computer doesn't recognize my phone, even though I've got all the settings right to be able to transfer files to the computer. It doesn't want to let me do that, so it's just insanity. So, anyway, I guess I am going to go ahead and get this started. So if you are ready, I'm going to flip the picture around and we'll go to work. So I don't know if you noticed on the community tab, I did post a different pattern than what I had originally posted. I decided, well, I researched a little further and discovered that the original graph that I had posted which was not my own pattern, admittedly. So I found out that it was already a tutorial by another content creator. It was a free pattern, but it was still somebody else's pattern. So I decided to forego doing that pattern, and so I sat down and created one myself. So, just to get an idea of what we need, to start with, you will need 2 colors of yarn, and I am using the Premier, the 1-pound skeins that I bought from Dollar Tree last week. I bought garnet and I bought white. So for this project, I do recommend that you use 2 very highly contrasting yarns. And then I am using a size J. I don't know if I can get that in the light for you to be able to see it. It's all in shadow. So it is a size J clover crochet hook. That's what I like to use with a 4-weight yarn. And you'll need a pair of scissors handy. So to start off with, you will want to put your yarn, put your slip knot on your hook. Leave a nice long tail. I'm leaving probably a good 6-inch tail on mine. And let's just right quick go over the graph a little bit. So you'll see that we've got numbers along the bottom of the graph going from right to left, and then numbers going up the side of the graph. The numbers across the bottom basically corresponds to the number of stitches that we will be working our mosaic pattern with. Now there are 2 out here that are done in a light peach color, and basically those are stitches as well, but they will not be worked as part of the pattern. They're just kind of like base stitches. And then the numbers up the side of the graph basically just correspond to the numbers of rows. On the other side, you'll see that there's the red and blue, red and blue. And basically, that just tells me where I have to cut off yarn and switch colors. So with mosaic crochet, you are working the same direction for each row. So if you are right-handed, you will be going right to left for every row. If you're left-handed, you'll be working the opposite direction. Now what's nice about this particular pattern is it is a balanced pattern, meaning it is the same left to right, right to left, and bottom to top. So however you're working, if you're left-handed, right-handed, it won't make any difference to you. So to start out, we are going to chain 20 chains. And I am left-handed, so my crocheting will look completely backwards if you are right-handed. So there we are, 20 chains. And now we are going to just work back across this row with a row of single crochet. And when I do this base row, I do like to go under both of these loops at the top of the chain, just because I feel like it gives you a stronger base chain to work with, base row. So when we get this row done, we should have a total of 19 single crochet. Donna, if you like back bump, that's fine. However you like to do it. I'm not here to tell you. I'm not making any rules. I'm just letting you know how I like to do it. You prefer foundation chains? Are you meaning you like to do like a single crochet foundation? So I have done my 19, and I always chain a couple at the end of my row before I pull it through, pull it tight, because I feel like that keeps it from tightening up this first stitch of the row, or last stitch, whichever. So at this point we have our 19 single crochets. Now we are going to switch over to our second color of yarn. Hello, whoever else is in the room. Say hello and let me know you're here. So, go ahead and put your second color of yarn on, chain one, and then you're going to want to pull your tail over to the outside, because we aren't hiding those tails. We're going to use those at the end of the project. So we're going to do a single crochet in this very first stitch, and you will go through both loops of your single crochet. And we'll do that at the beginning and the end stitch of each row. But now, for the rest of the stitches, we will be doing back loop only single crochet. So go ahead and work your way down the remaining stitches in the back loop only. And so far, you know, this kind of looks boring. It's just a row of red and a row of white, nothing special. But things are going to change here real soon. Okay, whoops, almost did the wrong thing there. Go through both loops, chain a couple, snip my yarn. Okay, so we've got our row worked through, the normal single crochet at the beginning and end of our row, and back loop only for the rest of the row. Now, we're going back to our primary color, and we're on row 3. So you'll notice on this row there are X's across the graph. Basically what that means to us, anytime you see this X on the pattern, Let me see if I can get it a little closer. Anytime you see this X on the pattern, that is going to indicate to us that we are doing a double crochet in the front loop of the primary color row previous. So we'll just do our double crochet and reach down and pull our yarn up through. So this is why they call this overlay mosaic crochet, because you're doing your stitches over the row previous to create your design. So let me go ahead, get my red tied on. And I hope you guys are able to follow along with me. If you have any questions. Okay, what we are making, Donna, is a mug rug. So at the end of this, it's going to be a little rectangle, and we will go ahead and tie off these long tails on the side that we're leaving and trim them for a little fringe, and we can use it as a mug rug. Okay, so now we are back to our first color, and you complete your single crochet as usual in the first stitch. Now here on the graph, it does show that there is an X, and you see the long stitch there. So you will want to do a double crochet into the front loop of your stitch down below. And what I like to do, because I don't want this to end up being too tight and pulling this front loop up, what I like to do is go through, kind of loosely pull my loop up, and then I put my thumb there to hold it, to make sure that I don't put too much tension on it and end up pulling that loop up. Now when you've completed that double crochet, you'll see that you have a stitch behind it with nothing in it. You want to ignore that stitch, because if we work a stitch into there, we are going to end up having too many stitches. So just ignore that one. And then our next stitch, we are going to go back to a regular back loop only. Then our next stitch will be another front loop double. And now you can see that we are starting to get our design going. So basically we are just going to work across this row. We've got another front loop, another back loop, and another front loop. And then we have just 3 stitches that we would do back loop singles. Thank you, Mishi. It was nice seeing you too. Thanks for stopping in. Okay, so now we've got our 3 back loop singles. So our next stitch on the graph is going to be a front loop double. And let me just make sure I put it in the right place. Okay. Whoops. Then we do a back loop single, another front loop double, Kim, we're making a mug rug. Ellen, thank you. I appreciate you stopping in, and I hope you will watch the replay and give it a try. And we are going to do another back loop single, another front loop double, another back loop single, another front loop double, and then we are to the last stitch of our row, which we work a normal single crochet under both loops. And then we want to not cut ourselves, snip off our yarn and pull tight. So there you see. It kind of is starting to look like something. Next row, it'll even more look like the graph. So let's go back and tie on our white yarn, or at least my white yarn. I don't know what colors you guys are using, so. All right. All right. Through both loops on this single crochet. And then we will take a look at what our graph says. Our graph says that we've got 2 stitches that are going to be back loop only. Okay. Then our 3rd stitch is going to be a front loop. And we're going to work down into that previous white row. Then we are going to work 3 back loop only. And then we are going to work a front loop. Then a back loop single. And then another front loop double. Then we're going to work 3 more back loop singles. Whoops, if I can get my back loop. And then another front loop double. And then we are going to work another front loop double, or I'm sorry, another back loop single, then another front loop double, then we are going to work a back loop single, just wondering, I think I did. I think I may have made a mistake counting. Oh, goodness. Okay. So, I hope you guys will forgive me. This is my first time doing this pattern too, so bear with me, if you will. Okay, so I'm sorry, the first back loop single should have been 3 at the beginning, and then our front loop double. And then 3 back loop singles, a front loop double, a back loop single, another front loop double, then 3 back loop singles again, then a front loop double, okay, I'm getting myself confused here. So, bear with me while I take a look. Okay, yeah, our last 3 back loop singles, and then our last single through both loops. I wrote the pattern and I'm confusing myself. Okay, so now it is starting to look even more like the graph. Throwing your brain off? I'm sorry, Amber. I know watching me as a right-handed person probably is a little confusing, and I do apologize, but I'm just hoping that you can basically understand what stitches I'm doing, and then maybe try it by not watching me do it, just by doing the stitches as I'm saying them. You probably can make your brain convert it into right hand, because the stitches are all the same whether you're right-handed or left-handed. So okay, so our next row we switch back over to, well, I'm switching over to my red, and chain 1, get your tail out to the outside, and do the single crochet under both loops. Then we are going to do another front loop double, and then we are going to work 2 back loop singles, well, actually we're going to work a whole bunch of back loop singles, because this one, even though you see the blue box there, basically that's blue because this stitch is coming down and covering over the top of that single crochet there. So we're going to actually work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 back loop single crochet. So I've got 2, so this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Then we work a front loop double. Then we're going to work 7 more back loop singles. Then we're going to work another front loop double. And our last stitch of the row, which is just a regular old single crochet. And as you can see, it's starting to look even more like the pattern. Okay. All right, go on to my next row of white. Do a regular single crochet, and let's take a look at what our pattern tells us. So we are on row 6. So we are going to do just a back loop single here. So we're going to do 3 back loop singles to start. 1, 2, and 3. And then a front loop double. And then we are going to do 3 back loop singles. And then another front loop double. Except, no, we're not. I'm getting ahead of myself here. We're going to do seven back loop singles. So okay, let me take a look. Row 6. Okay, 9, I was wrong. 9 back loop singles. And a front loop double. And then 3 back loop singles. And our final single crochet of the row. I probably should have practiced this pattern before I started this tutorial, but I just got done creating the pattern myself, so I hope you will bear with me. Okay, row 7. That tail out of the way. All right, do our first single, and what's it telling us? So it's telling us we need to do a front loop double, back loop single, front loop double. So front loop double, back loop single, front loop double, and then we do another back loop single, then another front loop double, back loop single, 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 oops, front loop single, or I'm sorry, front loop double, back loop single, front loop double, back loop single, front loop double, and then our last single crochet under both loops. Hi, Crochet Jojo. Hi, Krista. So I hope you guys can follow along with what I'm doing. But you can see that it is starting to look more like our pattern up here. Now once we add another row of white and get into adding those other overlaid stitches, it'll look even more like the pattern. And we are on row 8. So we're almost halfway through this, guys. So for row 8, we've done our first single, so now we've got 3 back loop singles, then we have a front loop double, then we have 3 back loop singles, then another front loop double, a back loop single, a front loop double, then 3 back loop singles, so for any of you guys that are just watching right now, the pattern for this is out on my community tab, so if you ever want to give it a try, the pattern is out there and available for you. So 3 back loop singles, a front loop double, a back loop single, a front loop double, and a back loop single, and our last single crochet under both loops. And now you can see that it really is starting to look like our graph. I just love doing mosaic crochet and watching how things really start to match up the further you go into your rows. I think that's just what makes it so fun. Because your first two rows, you look at it and you go, well, that's not looking like anything. But as you go and keep adding those overlaid stitches, it really starts to take shape. And I think that's what makes it so fun. And so, back to my red. My first single crochet, just regular old single. All right, row 9, it is telling us, of course, we need that front loop double. And then we have 3 back loop singles, then a front loop double, then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 back loop singles. And then a front loop double, three back loop singles, and our final stitch of the pattern stitches, our front loop double, and then our last single crochet under both loops. And we are now officially halfway through our pattern. Hi Cherry, how you doing? Nice seeing you. And that's what we are looking like. Yeah, I'm hoping today I will be able to get my technology issues sorted out so that I'll be able to actually record my tutorials. I don't mind doing them live. I actually kind of, enjoy this. I enjoy seeing the chat. And like I said, if you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat and I will do my best to answer them while we're on the live. So, thank you, Sherry. I appreciate that. So, our row 10, we're back to our white yarn. So here it's showing me that we need a back loop single, then a front loop double, and then we are going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 back loop singles, another front loop double, a back loop single, a front loop double, then 5 back loop singles again, then another front loop double, a back loop single, and our regular single crochet to finish out the row. Sherry, I am in South Bend, Indiana, so I'm not too far from Michigan. I have an aunt and uncle who live up in Niles, Michigan, which is actually where I was born. And from my doorstep to theirs is 20 minutes max. So, yeah, Amber, I can see where that would be hard to do with your Addy blanket tutorial. Yeah, I can see where it would be hard to work it live. Now, you're over on the east side of the state, right, Sherry? Okay, near Flint. Yep, that's what I thought. Yeah, I was born and raised in Michigan. I was born down in Niles. Then my dad's job took us to Kalamazoo and then to Lansing, because my dad worked for the state. He worked for Department of Agriculture. So, yeah, we kind of moved around a little bit for his job, but it was really nice. I mean, I got to see a lot of the state. And plus, both my parents really loved camping, so I got to see even more of the state because my dad would often come home on a Friday evening and say, pack up the car, let's go camping. And we'd take off somewhere in the state and camp all weekend. No, I know. I'm really close to Russ, yes. Marianne, we are making a mug rug. So once this is done, it'll just be a little rectangular motif. We're going to knot these long tails that we've got out here and just keep them, you know, trim them off nicely and keep them as springe. And yeah. So we are up just beyond our center point, so we're working with our red again. So row 11, the first thing I need, of course, is another front post or a front loop double. And then we're going to do 3 back loop singles. Another front loop double. Yeah, I was surprised. I was on his live the other night, Russ's, and I got to looking at his about info and saw that he lived in Niles, and I was like, oh my God, you're like my neighbor. So at this point, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 back loop singles. Yeah, one day I'd love to go over and get together with him and have a crochet day. That'd be fun. front loop double, and then we have 3 back loop singles, our final front loop double, oops, and then our last single crochet of the row. And one thing about doing this is going quickly because it's just a little motif, but when you're making an afghan out of this, it seems like it takes forever because it only grows like single crochet. So, you know, you're basically doing, even though you're working double stitches, you are only growing a single crochet row each row. So, yeah, it can be a while. I'm working a really beautiful afghan. The pattern is called the Sun and the Cross, and so it's the motif that I'm doing 3 boxes across the width of the afghan, so it's like a sun motif, a cross motif, and then a sun motif, and then I'm going to alternate them for the next section of the afghan. And I'm doing it in black, and I think the ombre there, I'm using Red Heart, and I think the ombre that I'm using might be called Cayenne. I don't have a skein right handy that I can tell you exactly, but I think it's Cayenne. So it's like orange, and then it goes into really deep, almost like a real deep brick, kind of red orange. I hope that it's going to be beautiful when I'm done. Oops, let me get my white yarn tied on. It really is easy, Bonbon, because you're using such basic stitches. I mean, everybody, when you first learn to crochet, some of the first stitches you're learning are single crochet and double crochet. So with this, what I think intimidates most people is working from the graph. But once you understand what this, what it means when you look at your rows, it's so simple. So yeah, I really think any crocheter, even beginning crocheters, can work mosaic crochet. It's just learning to read the graph is the hardest part of learning mosaic crochet. Now, I will say there are additional stitches that some mosaic crocheters use that can be a little harder. You'll see some patterns that have slanting overlay stitches, and those are a little harder, and I've had actually a little harder time grasping those because the only person that I've seen do a tutorial for those is Alexis Sixel, and she's a mosaic crochet designer, and her designs are amazing. But she is a right-handed crocheter, so I have a little trouble translating the progression of just how to do those slanted stitches. But I'll get it one of these days. I really will. Okay, so we are back to our white yarn. So we have to do 3 back loop single crochets, and I think I've got a mistake somewhere. What did I do? I'm wondering. Trying to figure out if I made a mistake somewhere along the line here. 3 and then 1. Okay. Okay, 1, 2. I think I may have skipped a stitch somewhere. So I'm going to just fudge it because I'm not tearing it back. So I am going to just add an extra stitch in. Go ahead and do my front loop. Hopefully it won't look too wonky when I'm done. And then that was my front loop. I go back and do 3 more back loop singles. And a front loop. Double. Back loop single. A front loop double. And there I pulled that stitch too tight, and that's exactly what I was talking about, is when you do your front loop double, you want to try and make sure your tension is not too tight and pulling that loop up. So let me rework that. So like I said, pull it up kind of loosely, and then kind of stick your thumb there to hold it down so that you don't make it too tight. And there you go. And then we do 3 more back loop singles, another front loop double, and then 3 more, if I can get hold of that back loop singles, and then our last single crochet. Okay, Sherry, well, it's been really nice seeing you here. I appreciate you coming in. And there we go. So now we have our tic-tac-toe board created. And for some reason that stitch is just really bugging me. But and I think I know why. I can see where my mess up was, so I am going to go back, take this row out, and fix that. Well, thank you, Sherry. I appreciate it. Thank you, Bon Bon. I just did make a major mistake, though, so I am going to tear this row back and fix it. I was going to try to fudge it, but I see where I made the mistake, so I'm going to fix it. So, there. So what? I can see that where the stitch should be is up here. So why? Oh, That's why. Okay, and now I'm at the right spot. Sometimes you can look at your design and just tell, yeah, I messed that up, you know. One, two. That still is not looking right. Oh, I know why. I did skip a stitch. Okay. All right, 3 back loop singles here. 1, 2, and 3. Then our front loop. Then our back loop. Then our front loop. Then 3 back loop. Then our front loop. Then our final 3 back loop. I think this is the row I messed up on the last time through it. I don't know why that row's so confusing. And our final single crochet, just a regular one, and we cut off. Oops, I am cut off, that's right. Duh. Okay. So, it's looking more and more like our graph. Except I do see a mistake I made. I should have had front loop doubles there. Well, it's my first time through this pattern too, so. Oh yeah, Amber, that would look really cool as a garden flag. What could you do as a leaves? Or pumpkins. Pumpkins and leaves. Bon, I really appreciate that. Yeah, I hope I will have a lot of interesting stuff for people to kind of get a taste of and maybe want to try. One of the things I'm looking forward to is doing the Christmas spider tutorial. I think that will be fun. All right, so let me tighten that up. Yeah, I think that'll be a fun tutorial because it's a really simple one, but you can come out with something so pretty at the end. Okay, so row 13. We've done our first front post double, or front loop double. Then we need a back loop single, another front loop double, and then we are going to do another back loop single, a front loop double, back loop single, 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 front loop double, and our last regular single crochet. All right. And row 14. We're going to start out with three back loop singles, then a front loop double, and then we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 back loop singles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Then we need a front loop double, and then 3 back loop singles, and our last single, just a few more rows, guys. It's really hard for me not to catch these tails under my... I am so used to catching my tails inside my work. It's just, it feels really strange to not catch the tails. So for this row, row 15, we will do our first front post double, or front loop double. Then we need how many back loop? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 back loop. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Then we need a front loop double, and then 7 more back loop. Marianne, I really do agree a nap sounds great. I may do that after I'm done here. And then our last front loop. Double of the row and our last single crochet. And that is row 15. And then we've got row 16. My dog is laying over here on the floor behind me, and he is being so good. He hasn't come over and bugged me to go outside or anything the whole time that I've been doing this. And that's really unusual because he usually wants to go out. So we've got 3 back loop singles, a front loop double, 3 more back loop singles, a front loop double, back loop single, front loop double, and then 3 back loop singles, front loop double, back loop single, 3 of them, and we are at the end of the row. Everybody is so quiet in the chat. Are you still out there? Okay, our first single crochet, then we're going to do a front loop double, a back loop single, a front loop double, a back loop single, oops, helps if you catch the yarn, front loop double, back loop single, front loop double, 3 back loop singles, a front loop double, a back loop single, a front loop double, back loop single, front loop double, back loop single, and our last front loop double, and our last single crochet, and it is the last stitch of the design. So that was row 17, and there you have it. So now all I'm going to do is go down through and just knot these together. Okay, there's that side all knotted up. And then basically you just do the same thing on this side. So does anybody have big plans for the afternoon besides naps? Which to me, a nap sounds like a real big plan. And there is knot 3 together for the last one since it's an uneven number. And that is that. So now I am just going to fold my 2 edges together and get my bigger scissors and give it a haircut. And I'm going to try and get it as even as I can, but I will have to say haircutting was never my strong suit, so it's probably going to end up crooked just like my bangs always did when I tried to cut them. And there we go. That is the finished mug rug. And I am going to enjoy using that on my desk. Deb, what were you watching to knot beads? That sounds interesting. Deb, I totally understand. I have a hard time watching right-handed people, but if they say what the stitches are while they're doing it, I usually can catch on and make it work for me. But yeah, I can understand where converting it in your brain from left-handed to right-handed can definitely be a problem. I have the same problem, just the other direction. So, but that is it. So I hope that you guys, I hope that this demystified mosaic crochet for you a bit. Like I said, mosaic crochet is one of the easiest techniques there is. It's just basic single and double crochet. It's just where you put them that makes all the difference. And like I said, once you get over being intimidated by using that graph, once you learn how to read the graph, you've got it going on. And I know that every one of you out there on the channel right now can definitely do it. So, I'd like to thank you guys all again for stopping in. Let me flip back around so I can so I can say goodbye to everybody. I really appreciate all of you guys being here for this. And I hope you will definitely go out and give it a try. So I am going to say goodbye at this time, and I want to thank all of you guys once again for joining me in the Songbird's Nest. Be watching for more videos and some recorded tutorials out really soon. I am working very diligently on getting the test pattern done for Kim's Layers of Kindness poncho that I'm making. I should hopefully have the tutorial out for that sometime this next week. I think I will be able to get that started out. So it may be in more than one part, but I will be getting the tutorial for that going. So I am going to let you all go. Have a great rest of the afternoon. And until the next time we see each other, I want to remind everybody to learn to be happy, strive to be happy, put love out into the world, and go out and create something wonderful. Take care. Bye-bye for now.